He was a graduate of Princeton University and a social activist. In New York City, they knew he was a special person. And they sent him to be trained up by me in Dallas. I was a GBC and a sannyasi, and he was John Favors. He looked up to me and called me his Shiksha Guru. He formed his foundation in Krishna consciousness under my direction and was very grateful for it. As he became exposed to the lectures of other sannyasis and senior devotees, he said my lectures were simple, but they were true to Prabhupada and he preferred them. We formed a tight, loving relationship, and he called me his older brother. He received his initiation in a letter sent to me. The name he was given was Ganasham, which means black cloud, which I thought was appropriate since Prabhupada had never seen him. I performed the fire sacrifice. Initially, we went on Sankirtan together in the streets, but years later we formed the BBT Library Party. We wore wigs and suits and presented ourselves not as Hare Krishna devotees, but as book salesmen for the BBT. In one day at a college, we had to go around, there were about 10 of us, and gather recommendations from the professors, which would be presented to the librarian at the end of the day, to order all of Prabhupada's books that had been printed up to date and all that would be printed in the future. It was a very tricky presentation. And out of the about 10 devotees in the party, the two leading salesmen were Ganasham and a devotee named Mahabhuti. I wasn't a very good salesman. I just sold individual books, as did some of the other devotees. But I served as the counselor and mediator of the brahmacharis. Ganasham and Mahabhuti had a fierce rivalry. They both wanted to see the best professors, so I had to make them take turns. Shubhananda was also on the party, and he was qualified to speak to academic professors, but he wasn't good at clinching sales, so I had to restrain him from seeing the best professors. Ganasham once expressed to me that he wanted to go to Africa, but I told him he was doing better service on the library party, and he surrendered. Then one year we went as a group to the Mayapur annual meeting, and while we were there, Ganasham asked me to give him sannyas. This was after Prabhupada's disappearance. I had two reasons why I thought he should wait before he took sannyas. I asked him to wait a year. I won't say what those reasons are, for fear it sounds like fault-finding. I expected him to be obedient and accept my instruction for his own good. But he didn't. He was very anxious to take sannyas immediately. So we went to another sannyasi and guru who we didn't know well, Kirtanananda Swami, and asked him to give him sannyas. Kirtanananda Swami said, sure, and he gave him the name Bhakti Tirtha Swami. This changed things between Ganesham and I. I signed a paper approving his initiation by Kirtanananda Swami, but things were different between us. He left my association and went to New Vrindavan. After a while, he left that place and went to Africa, where he had great success. He became an initiating guru and opened a center in Washington, D.C. That was a unique center. He got a lot of radio time and spoke on the radio to the people of Washington, D.C. area. And when they would come to the Washington, D.C. center, they wouldn't be introduced to the place as a Hare Krishna place. It was a typical Bhakti Tirtha move. Only after a considerable amount of time were they told this was the Hare Krishna movement. And he had success in recruiting people. We met a few times over the year, and while we were cordial, we weren't soul brothers anymore. He began writing books, and they were controversial with the GBC. Then he made his dramatic prayer to Krishna to purify him right away of all his impurities so that he could become more potent. A few months later, he developed cancer. He took this as an answer to his prayer. Some older devotees wrote to him and told him to stop the prayer. They said, we become purified by reading Srimad Bhagavatam. But he kept up his prayer and said that many devotees were inspired by it, especially ex-Guru coolies who were in a feeling of resentment. But they were inspired by his courage, and they came back to Krishna consciousness. His condition got worse. He had to have his foot amputated, and he developed painful tumors over his body. Then his collarbone broke. But he kept preaching fiercely on the internet and at Gitanagari. Many senior devotees went to visit him, and I wanted to have a reconciliation meeting with him myself. I visited him in his center at Washington, D.C. I wrote about it in great detail in my book, Write and Die. And I'm going to read a small portion of it. We went over again the old disagreements that we had rather quickly, just to get them out of the way. The early days of my misunderstanding him when he wanted to take sannyas, but they just had to be mentioned for the sake of mentioning them. I said also, I want you to forgive me for any dislike or misunderstanding I had for your present days of preaching your books, because it is your way and it is greatly successful. I've been reading your books and I like them, and I like the fact that so many people follow you. He began to mention the great successes of thousands of people following him, and said that the GBC Executive Committee's attack on his books was mostly out of envy. He mentioned something about my books and said that my situation is similar. The GBC says that my books are okay, but not for an ISKCON guru to write. He says that's what they say about him, that his books are okay, but not for an ISKCON guru to write. He said my books would be appreciated after I am dead, but not now. He said the GBC is trying so hard to get people to appreciate ISKCON, but they don't appreciate my books. He said the BBT is even making a proposal now to find non-devotee writers to write books about ISKCON, but they don't even know that I am writing relevant books myself. I had to laugh at that one. They'll go out and get some hack writers to write books about Krishna consciousness and ignore the writer they've got in their own camp. Similarly, they dismissed their Bhakti Tirtha Swami, their world ambassador, for going around preaching about depression and predictions of world doom to thousands and thousands of people, being an African king and being just generally outrageous to thousands and thousands of people and becoming unbecoming of an ISKCON guru. And only 2 days ago they sent him an apology and a letter asking forgiveness for their case against him. He said, yes, just on my deathbed, they finally asked for my forgiveness. Of course, I have my physical condition. It's diminutive compared to his, but I had to pace myself. The room was stuffy and I didn't feel so comfortable physically. Bhakti Tirtha mentioned my own condition, and he said how terrible it must have been to experience migraine headaches, and that he was sympathetic to my pains over the years. Fortunately, I had no headache while I spoke with him. He encouraged me to go on preaching to my disciples and give them attention, and to other people also. As we were leaving, I told his disciples downstairs that he had told me to take care of my disciples. And one of his leading disciples said, you take care of us too. So he really put that as a burden on me, that I should take care of others and reach out to him. That's something he's been doing, and I should do it too. He kind of woke me up to reality, although my doctor and counselor and my condition haven't made me able to do it. Maybe able to enter a new phase of doing it. So that was in the air as a new kind of thing that he was revealing to me. Like, hey, why don't you take care of them a little more? That was a new thing that he was saying to me, giving me a wake-up call. That was a panic or pity. If you ask me what went through my mind, it's just these things I'm putting down in my words, these things that he said and these things that I said. I can't think of saying my heart felt like this or my mind felt like that. I was just present as these things went back and forth, absorbing it and being present and believing it and living it. Being very present, not doubting him or taking him as putting on a show. It was quite real and not overdone with any histrionics. It was like two old generals coming together and talking together. No exaggerations. If we were tobacco spitters, we would have been spitting tobacco and talking about death and talking about Prabhupada's movement. And then when my time was up, I was leaving saying, well, I'll write to you, Swami, unless you die before me. At one point he said, I'll get a place ready for you up there when you come. He had a big smile when he said that. I said, thank you. And he said it with belief. because we believe in the transcendental world and the shelter of Prabhupada. He helped me with my faith. I think I helped him. He said so. There was no bullshit. He said, no matter what you did in Maya, no matter how far you went in Maya, you couldn't get away from Krishna and Prabhupada. He has captured you too much. He was saying these truisms, and I was just eating them up. He was speaking with such faith. That was remarkable. We say these things. He's got a lot of faith. That's a matter of fact. Being so near to death, he speaks with great realization and simple faith. I may not be able to speak like that, but hearing from him, I think I can speak like that more now. So there was a shock of getting near a person with such faith. It was a matter of fact. I was getting my batteries charged by being with a person of matter-of-fact faith, just as he was matter-of-fact about his tumors. He's matter-of-fact about his faith. Oh yeah, I'll be going there. I don't know how long it'll be before I go, but when I go, I'm going here to where Prabhupada is. After that, we were reconciled and our friendship restored. I phoned him weekly at Gitanagari, even when he was not receiving phone calls from anyone else. And he told me of his pains, and yet how he felt very close to Prabhupada and Krishna. He even told me his intimations of what he thought his relationship was with Krishna in the spiritual world. So this was an example of restoring the loving friendship with the devotee before the devotee dies.